At 32,000 feet above the Nevada desert, a woman worth billions stopped breathing. Passengers froze. Someone started filming. But in seat 41D, a single father with worn-out shoes and an empty wallet stood up. He had missed meals for days. His daughter was asleep against his arm, and his mother was dying in a hospital he couldn't afford. He saved the billionaire's life in under 3 minutes. Then he went back to his seat. No name, no thanks, no reward. And by the time the plane landed, he was gone. The Boeing 737 shuddered through light turbulence somewhere between Seattle and Phoenix. In seat 3A, Eleanor Whitmore pressed her thumb against her temple and stared at the valuation projections on her tablet. The IPO roadshow in San Francisco was 3 days away. Her biotech company, Meridian Health Solutions, would be worth $4 billion by Friday. She reached for her water glass. Her throat felt tight. Behind her, in the economy cabin, Daniel Cross shifted his weight to keep his daughter comfortable. Lily's head rested against his ribs, her stuffed rabbit clutched under one arm. The toy had a torn ear. Daniel had sewn it back twice already. His phone showed 3 missed calls from Phoenix County Medical Center. He knew what they meant. His mother had maybe hours left. The flight couldn't go fast enough. The seatbelt sign blinked off. A flight attendant passed with the beverage cart. Daniel waved her away. He had $17 in his wallet and a credit card that wouldn't clear. In first class, Eleanor's vision blurred. She set down the tablet. Her hands felt strange, thick. The cabin lights seemed too bright. She tried to call the attendant, but her voice came out wrong, a wheeze instead of words. Her throat was closing. The woman beside her noticed first. "Are you okay?" Eleanor couldn't answer. Her lips felt swollen. She touched her face and felt heat, tightness. Her chest burned. Each breath came shorter than the last. The woman screamed. 2 flight attendants rushed forward. One grabbed the PA system. "Is there a doctor on board?" Passengers turned. Phones came out. Someone was already recording. Eleanor slumped sideways. Her face had gone pale, except for red welts spreading across her neck and jaw. Her breathing came in shallow gasps. "She's not getting air," one attendant said. Her voice was too loud, too high. "Panic. Medical kit," the other one said. Now, in seat 41D, Daniel heard the commotion. He lifted his head and saw people standing in the aisle, craning to see. He saw the fear in their faces. Lily stirred. "Dad? Stay here, sweetheart." He slipped out from under her and moved toward the front of the plane. The crowd thickened near first class. Daniel pushed through. "Excuse me, let me through." A man in a polo shirt blocked his path. "Sir, you need to sit down. I'm a nurse," Daniel said. The words felt strange in his mouth. He hadn't said them in 2 years. The flight attendant looked at him, taking in his faded jeans and worn sneakers. "You're a nurse? ICU. 6 years. He didn't mention that he'd let his license expire. Didn't mention the last 2 years of warehouse shifts and delivery routes. "Let me see her." She stepped aside. Eleanor was barely conscious. Her breathing had become a wet rattle. Daniel knelt beside her seat and checked her airway. Swollen, lips cyanotic, blue at the edges, hives spreading down her neck. "Anaphylaxis," he said. "She's going into shock. Where's the medical kit?" "Coming." The attendant's hands shook. Daniel tilted Eleanor's head back, checking for obstructions. Her pulse was rapid and thready. Seconds mattered now. Without intervention, her airway would close completely. "Hurry," he said. The kit arrived. Daniel tore it open and found what he needed. 2 EpiPen auto-injectors, sealed in plastic. He ripped the first one open. His hands didn't shake. That surprised him. After everything, after the grief and the rage and the slow dissolution of his life, his hands were steady. The muscle memory remained. He uncapped the injector, positioned it against Eleanor's thigh, and pressed the trigger. The needle punched through her slacks and delivered 0.3 milligrams of epinephrine directly into her muscle. He held it there. 5 seconds, the longest 5 seconds of silence he'd ever heard. Then Eleanor gasped. A real breath, deep and ragged. Her eyes opened. Daniel exhaled. He hadn't realized he'd been holding his breath. "You're okay," he told her. "The medicine's working. Just breathe." Eleanor stared at him. Her vision was clearing. She saw a man with tired eyes and 3 days of stubble, kneeling beside her seat like he belonged there. "Who?" she started. "Don't talk yet," Daniel said. "Your throat's still swollen. We'll get you to a hospital when we land." The flight attendant appeared with an oxygen mask. Daniel took it and fitted it over Eleanor's face. Her color was improving. The hives were already fading. Around them, passengers began to clap. Scattered at first, then building. Someone whistled. Daniel stood. His knees ached. He realized he'd been crouching on them for several minutes. "Sir, we need your name," the attendant said. Daniel glanced back toward his seat. Lily was standing in the aisle, watching. Her rabbit hung from one hand. She looked scared. "I need to get back to my daughter," he said. "Just your name," the attendant insisted. Daniel checked his watch. The pilot had already announced their descent into Phoenix. 20 minutes until landing. His mother had maybe an hour. He walked away. Eleanor Whitmore had built her empire on precision. Every decision mapped, every risk calculated. Her office in Seattle occupied the top floor of a glass tower with views of Elliott Bay. Her calendar ran in 15-minute increments. She measured success in patents filed, trials completed, valuations achieved. She had never been sick a day in her professional life, and now she was in a hospital bed at Bayview Medical Center, wearing a gown that opened in the back, while a doctor explained that she'd had a severe allergic reaction to an ingredient in her lunch. "The cashews," the doctor said. "You've developed a sensitivity." "I've eaten cashews for 30 years, Eleanor said. "Allergies can develop at any point. You're lucky someone knew what to do. Lucky." The word sat wrong with her. Eleanor didn't believe in luck. She believed in preparation, systems, control. "The man who helped me," she said. "Did he leave his information?" The doctor shook his head. "The flight crew said he didn't want to provide it." That made no sense. People always wanted something from Eleanor. Money, connections, recognition. A man had saved her life and asked for nothing. "Find him," Eleanor said. Across town, Daniel sat in a plastic chair in the ICU waiting room of Phoenix County Medical Center. The chair had a crack in the seat. He could feel it through his jeans. His mother had died at 6:47 p.m., 11 minutes after his plane landed. He'd made it to her room with 7 minutes to spare. She'd been awake enough to see him, to squeeze his hand. "You came," she'd whispered. "I'm here, Mom. Don't hide anymore, Danny. Let people see you." Those were her last words. Daniel didn't know what they meant. Now he sat in the waiting room while a social worker explained the process for indigent burials. There were forms. Fees he couldn't pay. Options that weren't really options. Lily sat beside him, holding her rabbit. She hadn't cried. She was too young to fully understand. Too old to be fooled by platitudes. "Is Grandma with Mommy now?" she asked. Daniel's wife had died 3 years ago. Cancer. The kind with a 30% survival rate if you caught it early and had good insurance. The kind that killed you in 8 months if you didn't. "Yeah, sweetheart," Daniel said. "They're together." Lily nodded. She looked down at her rabbit. "Can we go home now?" Home was a basement apartment in Tacoma with mold on the bathroom ceiling and a landlord who hadn't fixed the heat in 2 winters. Home was a place they'd be evicted from in 45 days if Daniel didn't come up with rent. "Soon," he said. His phone buzzed. A text from his boss at the warehouse. 3 shifts missed meant automatic termination. The message was polite but final. Daniel turned off his phone. Eleanor hired the investigator on her third day in the hospital. His name was Mark Harlan, former FBI, the kind of man who found people who didn't want to be found. "I want to thank him," Eleanor explained, "and compensate him for his help." Mark pulled out a notepad. "What do you know about him?" "He was in seat 41D economy. He said he was a nurse. He had a daughter, maybe 7 or 8 years old. That's it? He left before anyone could get his name." Mark wrote that down. "Interesting. What is? People who do good things usually want credit. This guy ran." Eleanor frowned. "Maybe he was in a hurry. Maybe." Mark didn't sound convinced. "I'll check the passenger manifest. Talk to the airline." It took him 4 days to find nothing. The name on the ticket for seat 41D belonged to a woman who'd changed flights at the last minute. The man and the girl had been standby passengers, paid in cash at the gate. No ID required for domestic flights if you paid cash and went through security. The airport security footage showed a man in a navy jacket and a girl with a backpack, but the angle was wrong, the resolution poor. His face was half-turned, unusable. "He's a ghost," Mark reported. "If he doesn't want to be found, we're not finding him." But Eleanor was good at solving problems. She shifted her approach. "He said he was a nurse," she said. "ICU experience. Check hospitals in Seattle. Check anyone who's let their license expire in the last 5 years." Mark raised an eyebrow. "That's a long list. Start with people who had family members in Phoenix hospitals that day. Cancer patients. Critical care. How do you know that?" "Because he was desperate to get off that plane," Eleanor said. "And desperate people are usually running toward something or away from it." Mark made 300 phone calls over the next week. He found Daniel on call 247, Phoenix County Medical Center. A woman named Sarah Cross, deceased. One adult son listed as next of kin. The son's last known address was in Tacoma, Washington. Daniel Cross, former registered nurse at Harborview Medical Center. License expired 18 months ago. No current employment listed. Mark found him working the night shift at a distribution center outside Seattle, loading trucks for $8 an hour. Daniel's shift ended at 6 in the morning. He walked out into the gray Seattle dawn and found a woman standing beside his car. Not just any woman, the woman from the plane. She wore a black coat that probably cost more than his car. Her hair was pulled back. She looked healthy, alive. "Mr. Cross," she said. "I'm Eleanor Whitmore." Daniel stopped walking. His keys hung loose in his hand. "I know who you are. I wanted to thank you for what you did on the plane." "You're welcome." He moved toward his car. "Wait." Eleanor stepped forward. "Please, I'd like to help you. Compensate you for... I don't want your money." The words came out harder than he intended. Eleanor flinched. "I'm not offering charity," she said carefully. "You saved my life. That's worth something. To you, maybe?" Daniel unlocked his car. "I did what anyone should have done, but they didn't." "You did." Daniel turned to face her. The anger surprised him. It came from somewhere deep, a place he'd kept sealed for 2 years. "You want to help me?" he said. "Go back to your company and fix the system that killed my wife." Eleanor went still. "What?" "The insurance system. The one where people like you decide whether people like me can afford to live." His voice was level, but his hands shook. "My wife had treatable cancer. She died because we couldn't afford the drugs. Because our insurance had a cap. Because the pharmacy wanted $8,000 a month for medication that costs $40 to manufacture. I didn't." "Your company makes those drugs," Daniel said. "I looked you up. Meridian Health Solutions. You hold patents on 6 different cancer treatments. You charge whatever you want because you can." Eleanor's face had gone pale. "That's not how it works." "That's exactly how it works. Daniel opened his car door. "So keep your money. I don't want blood guilt attached to my conscience." He got in and drove away. Eleanor stood in the parking lot for a long time after he left. The sun was coming up over the Cascades. The light was cold and clear. She called Mark. Find out everything about his wife. What happened? When? What drugs she needed. Eleanor. Everything. The report arrived 3 days later. 20 pages, single-spaced, medical records obtained through legal channels, bills, denial letters from insurance companies. Rachel Cross. Diagnosed with stage 3 ovarian cancer at age 29. Prognosis good with aggressive treatment. Chemotherapy plus a targeted therapy drug called hexavirin. Hexavirin was manufactured by a subsidiary of Meridian Health Solutions. Cost per dose, $7,800. Recommended treatment, 18 months. Rachel's insurance covered 12 doses. Then, they hit their lifetime cap. The rest of the report detailed the decline. Second-tier treatments that didn't work. A GoFundMe page that raised $11,000, enough for 2 more months. Daniel picking up extra shifts, selling their house, moving into an apartment. Rachel died in their bedroom because hospice care was cheaper than a hospital. Eleanor read the report twice. Then she called her CFO. "What's our margin on hexavirin?" she asked. 73%, he said. "It's one of our best performers." "What would it cost to manufacture?" "About $300 per dose." Why? Eleanor did the math. $7,800. $300 to make. $7,500 in pure profit times thousands of patients. "We're changing the pricing structure," she said. "Eleanor, we can't. The board won't approve it. We're about to go public. Then we'll delay the IPO. You can't be serious." She hung up. That afternoon, she drove back to the distribution center. She waited in the parking lot for 6 hours until Daniel's car pulled in for the night shift. She got out and stood in front of his headlights. Daniel stopped the car. He rolled down his window. "What are you doing?" "I read about your wife," Eleanor said. "I'm sorry." "Sorry doesn't bring her back." "No, it doesn't." Eleanor took a breath. The air was cold. She could see her breath. "But I can make sure it doesn't happen to someone else." Daniel turned off his engine. "What are you talking about?" "I'm restructuring my company's drug pricing. Starting with hexavirin. We're going to offer it at cost to anyone who can't afford the full price." Daniel stared at her. "You can't do that." "I can. I own 60% of the company. Your board will fire you. Probably." Eleanor smiled, but it was tight. She pulled an envelope from her coat and handed it through the window. "What's this?" Daniel asked. "An offer. My company is launching a program to bring expired medical professionals back into practice. Full tuition for recertification courses, guaranteed placement in underserved communities, living stipend during training." Daniel opened the envelope. Inside was a letter with his name on it. "I'm starting the program with you," Eleanor said. "If you want it, why me? Because you're good at what you do. Because you care. Because you shouldn't be loading trucks at 6 in the morning. And because I need to know that some good came from what happened on that plane." Daniel looked at the letter. Then at Eleanor. She was shivering in her expensive coat, standing in a parking lot at 6 at night, offering him a way back to the life he'd lost. "There's a catch," he said. "No catch. You do the work, you get the placement. That's all. And if I say no, then I'll find someone else. But I hope you won't." Daniel read the letter again. The stipend was enough to keep him and Lily fed while he studied. The placement was in a rural clinic in eastern Washington, the kind of place that always needed nurses. It was a way back. Maybe the only way back. "I need to think about it," he said. Eleanor nodded. "You have my number. Call me when you decide." She walked back to her car. Daniel watched her go. The letter sat in his lap. heavy with possibility. 3 weeks later, Daniel walked into a classroom at Seattle Central College. 20 other people sat at desks, opening laptops and notebooks. Most of them were younger than him. A few looked as tired as he felt. The instructor introduced herself and launched into the first lecture: pharmacology. The basics hadn't changed, but the drugs were newer, the protocols different. Daniel took notes. His hand cramped after an hour. He'd forgotten how much writing school required. At lunch, he sat alone and ate the sandwich he'd packed that morning. A woman sat down across from him. "You're the guy from the news," she said. Daniel looked up. "The plane thing. You saved that billionaire lady. I saw the video someone posted." Daniel hadn't known there was a video. "I didn't do anything special." "You kidding? You're a hero." She stuck out her hand. "I'm Jennifer. Respiratory therapy, second time around." Daniel shook her hand. "Daniel. Also, second time around." They talked for 20 minutes. Jennifer had lost her license after a DUI. She'd been sober 3 years now. This program was her way back. "Eleanor Whitmore's paying for it?" Jennifer asked. "Yeah, that's wild. I heard she's reforming her whole company. Drug prices, patient advocacy, all of it." The board tried to fire her, but she wouldn't budge. Daniel hadn't followed the news. He'd been too busy studying, but hearing it now, he felt something shift in his chest. Something that might have been hope. After class, he picked up Lily from the after-school program Eleanor's foundation had arranged. The program was free. It ran until 7 every night. "How was school?" Lily asked. "Good, hard. How was yours?" "We did fractions." She made a face. "I don't like fractions." "Nobody likes fractions," Daniel said. "But you're stuck with them." They drove to their new apartment. Eleanor's foundation had helped with the deposit. It was in a better neighborhood. 2 bedrooms. Heat that worked. Lily had her own room for the first time in 2 years. She decorated it with drawings. Most of them were of rabbits. Some were of Daniel in his old scrubs. "You're going to wear those again, right?" she'd asked when they moved in. "Yeah, sweetheart. I am." Now, sitting at their kitchen table while Lily did homework, Daniel opened his laptop and started on his own assignments. Anatomy review. Case studies. Drug interactions. His phone buzzed. A text from Eleanor. "How's the first week?" Daniel hesitated, then typed back. "Hard." "Good. You'll make it. I know you will." He stared at the message. 3 months ago, Eleanor Whitmore had been a name in the news. A billionaire, untouchable. Now she was texting him about homework. "Thank you," he typed, "for all of this." The reply came quickly. "Thank you for not letting me die." Daniel smiled. He put his phone down and went back to studying. The gala was held at the Cascade Hotel in downtown Seattle. 500 guests. Tickets started at $1,000. The money went to Eleanor's new foundation, the Whitmore Health Access Initiative. Daniel hadn't wanted to attend, Eleanor insisted. "You're the face of the program," she said. "People need to see that it works." So Daniel put on the only suit he owned, borrowed a tie from Mark Harlan, and showed up. The ballroom glittered. Crystal chandeliers, white tablecloths, centerpieces that probably cost more than Daniel's monthly stipend. He felt out of place immediately. Eleanor found him near the bar. She wore a silver dress that caught the light. Her hair was down. She looked nervous. "I hate these things," she admitted. "Then why do them?" "Because rich people only donate if you feed them first." She gestured toward the crowd. "Come on. I'll introduce you around." Daniel met executives, philanthropists, a senator. Everyone shook his hand and congratulated him. Several people asked for photos. It was surreal. Halfway through dinner, a man approached their table. He was in his 40s, wearing a tuxedo that fit too well. His face was angular, sharp. "Eleanor," he said, "we need to talk." Eleanor's expression went cold. Victor, I didn't know you were coming. I'm still on the board. Of course I'm coming. Victor looked at Daniel. Is this him? The charity case? Victor, Eleanor warned. No, I'm serious. Is this the man you're gambling the company's future on? Victor pulled out his phone and held it up. Because I have some questions about your foundation's spending. Eleanor stood. This isn't the time. It's exactly the time. Victor's voice rose. People at nearby tables turned to look. You've diverted $40 million from company funds to this program. You've disrupted contracts. You've tanked our stock price. All for what? To play savior? I'm helping people, Eleanor said quietly. You're bankrupting us. Victor turned to the crowd. Ladies and gentlemen, I think you should know where your donations are really going. Not to help the needy, to fund Eleanor's personal guilt project. Daniel felt every eye in the room turn toward him. His face burned. He stood up. I should go, he said. No. Eleanor grabbed his arm. Stay. But Daniel was already walking. He crossed the ballroom, past the stairs and whispers, and pushed through the doors into the lobby. He made it outside before Eleanor caught up with him. Daniel, wait. He turned. I shouldn't have come. I don't belong here. Yes, you do. I'm a nurse who loads boxes at night to make rent. These people donate my yearly salary as party favors. He gestured toward the hotel. Your brother's right. I'm a charity case. He's not right. Eleanor's voice was fierce. He's scared. He's been embezzling from the company for 3 years. I found out last week. He knows I'm about to expose him. Daniel stopped. What? Victor's been moving money through shell accounts. Small amounts, but consistent. About $2 million total. Eleanor looked back at the hotel. He's trying to discredit me before I can bring charges. Why haven't you? Because he's my brother. And I'm an idiot who thought family loyalty mattered. She laughed, but it was bitter. My lawyer's filing tomorrow. Victor will be arrested by the weekend. Daniel studied her face. She looked tired, scared. Human. This isn't about me, he said slowly. You're using the foundation to prove you're different from him. Maybe. Does that make it less real? I don't know. They stood in silence. The city hummed around them. Traffic, voices, the distant wail of a siren. I should go check on Lily, Daniel said, finally. Eleanor nodded. Okay. He started toward the parking garage, then stopped. For what it's worth, I think you're doing the right thing. With the company, the prices, all of it. But you can't fix everything by yourself. And you can't use people like me to absolve yourself. He met her eyes. I'm grateful for what you've done. I am, but I'm not your redemption story. Eleanor absorbed that. You're right. I'm sorry. Daniel nodded once, then left. The board meeting happened on a Thursday. Eleanor sat at the head of the table while 12 board members stared at her with varying degrees of hostility. Victor sat 3 seats down. He looked calm. Too calm. Let's address the accusations, the chairman said. Victor has presented evidence that you've misused company funds. That's not what happened, Eleanor said. Then explain the $40 million transfer. I authorized it. The board approved it at the January meeting. For R&D purposes, Victor said smoothly. Not for some vanity project. The Whitmore Health Access Initiative is not a vanity project. It's a pilot program to address healthcare accessibility. It's a PR stunt. Victor leaned forward. You nearly died and now you're trying to buy good karma. That's not a business strategy. That's therapy. Several board members nodded. Eleanor pulled out a folder. Before we continue, I'd like to present some findings from our internal audit. She slid copies across the table. The board members opened them. Expressions changed. What is this? The chairman asked. Evidence of embezzlement. Victor's been siphoning money from company accounts for 3 years. Shell corporations, offshore accounts, false invoicing. Eleanor looked at her brother. $2.3 million, to be exact. Victor's face went white. That's a lie. It's documented. I've already turned the evidence over to the FBI. They're preparing charges. The room erupted. Board members shouting questions. Victor standing, denying everything. The chairman pounding his gavel. Eleanor waited until they quieted. "Here's what's going to happen," she said. "Victor is going to resign. Today, he'll cooperate with the investigation or face additional charges for fraud and racketeering. And this board is going to approve the continuation of the Whitmore Health Access Initiative with full funding for the next 5 years. You can't dictate terms," one board member said. "I own 60% of this company. I absolutely can dictate terms." Eleanor stood. "I've spent 15 years building Meridian. I'm not going to let it become another pharmaceutical monster that profits from suffering. We're going to do better. Starting now." She looked at Victor. "You have 1 hour to clean out your office." Victor didn't move. His hands were shaking. "I'm your brother," he said quietly, "and I loved you." Eleanor's voice broke, just slightly. "But you made your choice." 6 months later, Daniel Cross walked into Cedar Valley Community Clinic for his first day as a registered nurse. The clinic was small, serving a farming community 2 hours east of Seattle. The building needed paint. The equipment was old but functional. There were 3 exam rooms and a waiting area that smelled like disinfectant and coffee. Daniel loved it immediately. "You're the new nurse?" The doctor was a woman in her 50s, gray hair pulled back, tired eyes. "I'm Dr. Patricia Hammond." "Welcome. Thank you for having me. Thank you for coming. We've been short-staffed for 8 months." She handed him a chart. "Kid in room 2. Possible strep throat. Start there." Daniel took the chart. His hands didn't shake. He walked into the exam room and saw a boy, maybe 10 years old, sitting on the paper-covered table. His mother sat beside him, looking worried. "Hi," Daniel said. "I'm Daniel. I'm a nurse here. Let's see what's going on." The shift lasted 12 hours. Daniel saw 32 patients. He triaged a farming accident, administered vaccines, counseled a diabetic about insulin management, and held the hand of an elderly woman while Dr. Hammond delivered bad news about her biopsy results. By the time he drove home, he was exhausted. His feet ached. His back hurt. He felt alive. Lily was waiting when he got home. She'd made dinner with the babysitter. Spaghetti, slightly burned. "How was it?" she asked. "Good. Really good. Did you help people?" "Yeah, sweetheart. I helped people." She hugged him. "I knew you would." That night, after Lily went to bed, Daniel sat on their small porch and called Eleanor. She picked up on the second ring. "How was day 1?" she asked. "Perfect. Exactly what I needed." He paused. "How are you?" "Surviving." "The IPO went through. We're officially public. Stock price is strong. And the pricing reforms? Implemented. Hexaviron is now available at cost for anyone who qualifies. We've treated 200 patients so far who couldn't have afforded it before." Her voice softened. "Your wife would have been one of them." Daniel's throat tightened. "Thank you for doing that. Thank you for making me see it needed to be done." They talked for another hour. About the clinic, about Meridian's expansion plans, about Lily's new school. Easy conversation, the kind that came from people who'd been through fire together. "I should let you go," Eleanor said finally. "But there's something I want to ask you." "What?" "Would you be willing to speak at next year's gala?" "About the program. About your experience. I think it would mean a lot." Daniel thought about the last gala. The humiliation. Victor's accusations. "I don't know if I'm the right person for that." "You're exactly the right person. Because you're honest. You don't let me get away with anything." He smiled. "I'll think about it. That's all I ask." After they hung up, Daniel sat in the dark and thought about the past year. The plane, his mother's death, Eleanor appearing in that parking lot. The months of study, the terror of wondering if he could do this again. And now he was here, working, helping, living instead of just surviving. His mother's last words came back to him. "Don't hide anymore. Let people see you." He was trying. It was hard. But he was trying. A year after that first day at Cedar Valley Clinic, Daniel found himself on another plane. This time, Lily sat beside him. Eleanor sat across the aisle. They were heading to a conference in Denver where Daniel would speak about rural healthcare access. Halfway through the flight, a call went out over the PA system. "Is there a medical professional on board?" Daniel and Eleanor looked at each other. She smiled. "Go," she said. Daniel stood up. So did Eleanor. "Both of us," she said. "I've been taking emergency response courses." They walked to the front of the plane together. A man had collapsed in his seat. Heart attack, by the look of it. Daniel started chest compressions while Eleanor coordinated with the flight crew. They worked together, seamless, until the man stabilized and the plane made an emergency landing. Afterward, sitting in the airport while the man was transferred to a hospital, Lily asked, "Is he going to be okay?" "I think so," Daniel said. "We got to him fast enough. You saved him. Like you saved Eleanor. We saved him." Together, Eleanor bought them all coffee while they waited for the next flight. She sat down and handed Lily a hot chocolate. "Thank you," Lily said. "Can I tell you something?" "Of course. I'm glad my dad saved you. Because you saved him back." Eleanor glanced at Daniel. He was looking out the window at the planes, taking off and landing. The endless cycle of departures and arrivals. "We saved each other," Eleanor said quietly. Lily nodded, like that made perfect sense. That's what people are supposed to do. She was right. That was exactly what people were supposed to do. They boarded the next flight 2 hours later. Daniel settled into his seat, Lily beside him, Eleanor across the aisle. The plane lifted into the sky, carrying them toward wherever they were going next. For the first time in years, Daniel wasn't afraid of falling. He'd learned that sometimes, when you fall, someone catches you, and sometimes you get to catch them back.